Hello, good morning all. Be welcome. Good morning. Welcome all. Hola, buenos días. Sean todos muy bienvenidos. This is the Epicentrism in Debate number 76. Today is Friday, August 20th from 2021. The subject today is Epicentrism without borders from Universalismology specialty. I am Cristina Arakaki. I met Conscientiology and started to volunteer in 1995. And in 97, I started teaching Conscientiology. And in 2001, I started Penta. And since 2006, I have been integrated the Epicenter Council from ICCC. So let's start with the definology. Epicentrism without borders is the act or effect of the omni-interactive conscient who cosmoethically acts in the self-lucid condition of an interdimensional spinning top with the goal of generating, sustaining, and expanding the interassistential and claritoscal, the intruding Holocene based on theoretical universalism, which is 1% of theory and 99% practice. In synonym, universalistic leadership, para-cosmopolitan epicentric performance, mega-fraternal libertarian epicentrism. Before starting, I would like to give you a contextualization from this subject that was written related with the third International Week of Conscientiology. Actually, I received an invitation from Virginia Ruiz and from the organizers, which is starting today, and this event goes until August 29th. And they asked me about the possibility of writing things that are related with the International Week inside the context from the internationalization and inside the International Week environment. So I would like to reinforce, I would like to give the congratulations from everybody that had been able to organize this very nice event that is already counting with 60 people in different countries. So we have now a milestone of success and one activity related with universalism related in the conscientiologies. And here in the division of the contextualization, I bring a citation from instructor Vieira, in which he wrote, universalism is the magnum philosophical principle which underlines all other evolutionary principles, where the consciential manifestation expresses the relationship of existence to humanity, fulfilling the personal reason d'etre of international existence. And the theoretical universalism allows the most lucid conscient to eliminate all their basic divergence between human beings and beings in general, thus approaching the experiences of the universal fraternity of mega fraternology. Freedom, beyond the trenches of dogmatism, a healthy expansion of universalized internal freedom is possible, enabling a balanced expression of extrasensory perception and the self-experiment of advanced paraphenomena based in the magnitude discretion binomial. Equality, through the full experience of interassistential lucid self-parapsychism and cosmoethical self-discernment, the cosmopolitan epicon, contrary to the individual of the person, subordinates to a certain community or egoic trench threats men, women, and people equally and gets rid of all segregationist stereotype and labeling manifestation, which represents the particularities of the ego. So the self-cognition, there is an understanding that the most intelligent thing is to have oneself potentiality that is power predominant over themselves. Groupality. By using the binomial admiration disagreement, the conscient epicenter takes an initial step towards frank universalism, establishing cosmoethical, megafraternal, and neophilic groupality with respects to others and freedom of expression, being the most evolved of all individual and group freedom. And here we have a citation from Katia Arakaki. She's the author of the book International Viagens Interconscienciais, and a few facts related with my existence, that there are a few facts in which we can establish correlationships with the Holocene, with the International Holocene. And there is a paragraph in which I share with you, the name of the paragraph is Parafact. I share with you a number of nice experiences that I had in the past that have been helping me to understand better and had been able to contribute for me to do a revision, to reanalyze my paradigm and the relationship with the speciality parallel law, and from the amount of the experiences that I would like to share with you. I was the instructor of the parapsychic dynamic, which is a dynamic that we have been holding here in CIEC in Foz do Iguaçu. It is a dynamic that had been starting in 2009. We have been for more than 10 years dealing with this dynamic. And then I received an experience about when I was in ECP2 course, and a third experience while I was having a relationship or working in the specific dynamic related with South Africa. And then I had been explain a few activities that has a nice relationship or an important relationship with universalism. So when I wrote this paper, I thought a lot about people that are not in Brazil. So I would like to offer a view about what we have been doing since the foundation in 1988 from the IIPC, International Institute of Projectology and Conscientiology. So it is just a simple list. It has not the objective of being the most complete list, but it's important for us to understand, to have an overview about how we have been able to advance from that moment until today. So in page number 4, I took profit from one article from Arakaki and Bonassi named Interassistance Without Borders. And from a list they made, I placed a list and I took profit from that list. in which they were able to mention a few barriers, because every type of universalization starts with the consciousness per se. So this list is for us to expand the universalism. So, and then the Urubexology, which is when I close the session, which is the most serious aspect of Urubexis, is the arrival of conscientiology through intraphysicality, which eliminates walls, doors, and windows to multidimensionality. The theories of epicentrism without borders is a new challenge to intermissivists, evolutionary elders capable of successfully leading them to existential completism in the interassistential self-exemplary leadership. And then the questions: have you already assumed universalistic epicentrism? What practical result have you obtained so far from the theories of parapsychic leadership without borders? So before we start with the questioning, I would like to reinforce, I would like to give my congratulations for the invitation and for the organizers of this event, in order for them to invited me, and even for them to be able to structure this international event. And I would also to say thank you very much for the entire team for being able to embrace me and help me, and also to reinforce the congratulations to Julio Hoyer, because in this data, Julio Hoyer was already scaled, and then Julio Hoyer accepted to change with me, and then I am here talking with you. And I also would like to call the attention, so the instructor Marco and other teachers as well, other volunteers, and the team of translators, and because this is a debate that has been having simultaneous translations into English and Spanish. And I would like to reinforce my gratitude for this team of translators as well. They have been doing an excellent job in order for us to be able to expand Conscientiology. So this is the basic things I would like to start talking. So I don't know if you or the debaters would like to pose questions. So good morning, instructor Arakaki and all, and everybody who is here present today, and everybody who is attending. So let's reinforce that we have our normal channel today, which is the main site from Tertuliarium. But then we have already been able to transmit in the normal channel, in which, and then we are also having simultaneous translations for English and Spanish as well. So for those who are interested on having a participation, you guys can go ahead and send the questions in either for the Tertuliarium room or here using the chat. So those questions that come in Portuguese, they come to me, and those that are placed in Spanish, instructor Odilio will be taking care. And in English, the instructor Marco Antonio will be holding and taking care. So everybody will be able to interact and establish a debate with instructor Cristina. So the first question that we have here is from Marilux, our nice Marilux from Minas Gerais. Good morning, instructor Cristina. And page number 1, before the last paragraph, could you talk about groupality and the binomial admiration disagreement as well? In a sense of the freedom being more developed or having more or less freedom in terms of groupality. So good morning. I'm glad you are helping us in the majority and almost in all the activities here. So Marilux, I think that this binomial admiration disagreement binomial, it is quite a nice challenge for us. And it is exactly this, the first step. Whenever we place this binomial on practice, we are giving the first steps in order for us to think about universalism, about mega fraternity, about connecting people. If we still have difficulties to admire people that we disagree, or even being able, or we can even be able to disagree from people that we admire as well. So this practice is being on practice on our day by day in the Conscientiological volunteer, in our family. How are the Teosenic relationships related and in terms of energetic pattern? And here I would like to open a parenthesis, especially for those who are abroad. I will try to be more explicit in a few concepts with the idea of help. So closing the parenthesis. So Mary looks, how is the pattern of thoughts, sentiments, and energies? So how is the path when I am not in agreement? So for example, the thoughts like we against them and this procedure, it is an exercise. So I repeat, for me is a big challenge. Perhaps is one of the concepts that is more challenge in terms of conscientiology, in terms of changing the paradigm. Because for many lives, perhaps, we have been having the tendency of agreeing with those we like, we interact, and we have a tendency to have a better interconnection with those groups and people that we agree. For example, those who work with social media. So an interesting challenge for us is trying to focus or trying to understand or even follow the Twitters or the media from people we don't agree, we disagree. So this is actually one of the binomial that help us a lot to practice the interconsciential respect. So it is even having your point of view. But of course, we don't want us to be subject to the point of view of others as well. But we can change and we can do those practice. Good morning, Chris and all. Especially in this item that Marilux brought. You talked about the freedom of expression, the most advanced freedom and freedom of expression. Well, I think that freedom brings responsibility. It is connected with that. And this is in terms of the parallel as well, and how you can establish the co-relationship between an advanced freedom of expression with the responsibility of that communication as well. So we are observing here because you talked about polarization of ideas. So you might risk blocking the connection between groups. And even whenever we establish different polars, we end up cutting and separating the understanding of the situation. So how we can connect that freedom with responsibility. So Odilio, this is what you brought is very, very serious, because this binomial is from freedom and responsibility is a very important thing. So every freedom brings a strong process, a strong level of responsibility. So whenever we understand better the evolutionary dynamic, the laws of cause and effect, we started to understand better our responsibility whenever we develop more freedom. So best would be analyze the effects from what we think, how we think, and before everything qualify our intentionality. So what is the goal? Which intention? Applying the discernment. So in this case, it is better talking or being quiet or being in silence. The freedom of expression is not throwing words away out of nothing. There is a moment of talking and there is a moment of being in silence. So having more freedom of expression means having more maturity in order to exercise the attributes of communication. So it is not only words or talking, we have also the parapsychism condition, the holotosenic condition. So it is not just talking and talking, it is exactly the opposite. So the more freedom I use, the more I apply my mature freedom, it will require us to be more quiet and to act with more discretion. And there is another factor as well, which is the practice of hearing, which we call attent, connected, aware listening. Because today perhaps we have a level of anxiety in which people need to, they feel the need of talking. So as opposed of us as groups of people, as opposed of hearing in order for us to reflect, we will end hearing to answer. So together with the hearing, we are already elaborating our answer. So perhaps we risk to achieve a certain level of anxiety, of thinking, or that we need to talk. So when you bring the condition of responsibility, I reinforce this side of communicating and establishing a coherent use of this freedom of using words, meaning knowing how to hear. So the conflicts, perhaps 90%, they might happen because we have a difficulty of hearing. So the conflicts about communication, they might not happen with the person that is sending the communication, but they could happen with the person who is receiving the information. So if a person develops certain level of openness, this person will be able to eliminate this dust of communication. No? And it's important to remember that we have also a non-verbal communication, a parapsychic communication. So if a person is more open, they tend to defend less the point, their own point of views, having less preconcepts. So the tendency is that whenever we develop a certain level of universalism, we will be qualifying our freedom of expression inside of this posture of responsibility. A question from Ligia Decker from Foz do Iguaçu. Congratulations for the excellent paper and also for the opening the International Week. Would you elaborate about your enumeration, the 5 items of your list, the serious importance of the epicentrism without borders, qualifying us paracosmopolitan for the next intermission? So, Ligia, as I mentioned, thank you for your work. I would like to congratulate you for the question, but we will be also launching in the International Week the Journal of Conscientiology, which is this journal will have articles in English, and it's amazing because she just arrived in Brazil, and as soon as she arrived, her first task was materializing the launching of Journal of Conscientiology in English. Congratulations for your epicentrism. So, Ligia, I see that our actions, they reinforce conscientiology as a universal science, which is the first paragraph of the paper, the principle that established that is the base of other principles as well. Despite conscientiology was proposed in Brazil, and we have many reasons that's why conscientiology was proposed in Brazil, and there are various reasons for that. As a consequence of extra-physical reurbanization, the tendency is those ideas, those proposals becoming universalists. Actually, they are universalists already. So starting with this beginning of the ICCC that started in Brazil, but soon it was represented in other countries as well, almost together. You know, Instructor Vieira in the beginning, he traveled a lot to Argentina, together with Instructor Paulo Balona, to in order to give lecture, and he also traveled towards other countries in order to bring the seeds of Conscientiology. So starting here in the Brazilian territory, the tendency and the parallel law is try to universalize in order to divulgate the ideas and the proposal in the most various languages. And we have been trying to do that during those last 3 decades of launching IIPC as well. And we have been trying to do that. And, you know, Lydia, I see that we have been able to achieve very good results, especially for us as pioneers, as instructors. We need to incorporate and starting with our theories, our theoretical redaction, we can propose the clarity task using examples, exemplarism for our friends or our companies, or from people who are not able to speak Portuguese, and also for people who are abroad. So whenever we are establishing this recomposition and this connection, this embracing this new affinity, it's important to think that, or to analyze that there are a group of people that have a proaxis more related with the international. And I like to think that we have universalist proaxis. So people can even live in one specific country, or perhaps the person might even not be a polyglot, but what interests us here is the level of universalism and the level of openness of the person. So I would like to say that perhaps we might think as a group, like saying, well, folks from the international proaxis. No, it's not like that. We are all universalists, so we need to embrace everybody, no, Brazilian, Indians, and everybody, and even the consciexes, even the extraterrestrial conscience as well. So this way of amplifying our thoughts, this is related with the pre-intermissiology. That's why I try to establish a connection like this. Despite we being evolutionary elders, this condition of epicentrism without borders, it seems to be a new challenge, because with the intermissive course, we start to develop this expansion in terms of vision, developing a less defensive posture, establishing new relationships, new ideas that are related with our ego. So it is a paradox. We are evolutionary elders. We are very old from the point of view of evolution. We are leaders. One of the factors that will lead consciousness to be part of the intermissivist course are the possibilities of becoming leaders. But we have new challenge, and this condition of developing universalistic condition is a challenge for us. I would like to reinforce also that Instructor Vieira helped us a lot with his legacy. Now it seems that with all the activities, we are starting to practice this attractivity, and our group, our public cannot be only in Brazil. Do you agree? So this condition of developing the presential force, our interconnections, holobiographical interrelationship with the consciousness that are far from Brazil, but also thinking in terms of developing a few abilities in order to be able to reach this public, the condition of, for example, learning a different language, connecting with different cultures. This is part of this second part of the enumeration from Katia and Arakaki and Bonassi. So it seems that now in the pre-interim missiology, we are starting to have the opportunity to practice this attractability, rhizomatic attractability. So depending on the level of the completism in our proaxis, in our universal, international, wild world, interassistential proaxis, multidimensional proaxis, from this level of completism in our proaxis, we will be developing the possibility of acting as interassistential leadership in the next intermission.
Okay, I think so. You, Ligia can answer, ask again a question. Marco? Very good, excellent paper. It brings an expansion relative the understanding of our role as agglutinators, leaders to the group max proaxis. It caught my attention, your casuistic on page 2, the second item. You say out of the box thinking. So the departmentalization and how we are used to work in boxes, and our work is way more integrated. I remember Claudio Garcia said something in the ECP1 course. Our relationships are from our ID number and not like the idea of a company. So how can we relate better among the consciousness? So relative to these barriers, what are the new challenges of the ICCC in terms of conscientiocentric institution in order to break these inner borders, and also the relationship borders, because we integrate the SOCIN. How can we do this interaction in a more cosmopolitan way? Thank you for the question. This experience was very imprinting, because the energetic pattern of fraternity of the T-max of helpers, at least I perceived that. And for me, how that experience had an effect of expanding my conscientiality, and how important is to value the consciousness, to focus the consciousness. The institutions, the organisms are also important. And I worked, the majority of my volunteering job was to build institutions. But I'd like to say something about this experience because it really imprinted in my hollow memory. Because I've perceived during the interaction with the teammates of helpers, a kind of a confusion, not really, but some difficulty. Difficulty to think in this form, like a rigid structures or boxes or departments, like they are fundamental. These boxes and departments were fundamental to interassistance. So the teammates had a certain difficulty to think that way. And the context was that, oh, but why are you asking that? It doesn't matter. It is just how you organize yourself. We don't think like that. Let's see, the context helper, there is a way from her or his para-brain through my para-brain, and a big effort to say it is important, it is fundamental. You are there in the intraphysical society, so organizations, institutions, they are important, but that's not the of the utmost importance. That's not the priority. So I see that, like I put here, let's reduce bureaucracy in interassistance. I think instructor Eva said that somehow we can abort interassistance due to bureaucracy structure. I'm not telling that these things are not important, they are. But Marco, I think we should use them in a more intelligent way. So the institutions, the conscientiocentric organisms, they follow the dynamics and the pioneering that the consciential paradigm brings. So as we ourselves recite our interconscientiality, and we have techniques to do that, so I bring here a hypothesis. There are a lot of techniques related to the consciential paradigm that can be applied in an institutional level. I know that you, Marco, study that a lot. You're one of the specialists there in Aracê. And I think there is a lot of room to study these things. And as far as we look for ways to organize ourselves relative to law, relative to institutions, in order to make different, make it an innovation, and with disruptive ideas related to the consciential paradigm, I think these can qualify our groupality and bring us together and approaches us to the holodocene of more evolved communex. I think in an evolved communex, maybe there are no departments there. Not that I am a very participant, a frequent participant in that communexis, I'm not that, but I imagine that, like Cosmoethics, Universalism, the group codes of Cosmoethics, instead of regulations. And I think this is one of the factors that could drive us towards a more interessential groupality among us and from us. But relative to the internationalization, this is even way more important. Brazil is very bureaucratic. We have traditions here relative to law, or we need to register things. We have offices, and it is related to control. Many times, bureaucracy, when you have this excess of bureaucracy, you have a false perception that you are safe, things are secure, and you're controlling things. But relative to internationalization, some countries, some Holocaust, they are not that bureaucratic. So they don't understand that. It doesn't fit. So I see that this predisposition and this openness and mainly the application of the principle of disbelief relative to experience things. And let's try to see if there are other ways to organize ourselves intraphysically in order to be more fluid. And even in Brazil, we have different models of organizations. In the morning, Tertulia instructor Jeffrey Lloyd presented again the proposal of conscientious hubs in order to develop and accelerate the internationalization of the cleric task. So Marco, I see there's a lot of room to make experiments. We can learn with people abroad. There was this question, Odilius' question, we should listen, understand, try to understand what people are thinking abroad, what is more comfortable to them in order to act, and have a lot of experiments in Brazil and outside Brazil relative to this institutional part. Yes, Odilio, yes, just saying something, adding something. Sometimes there is a confusion thinking that the institutions are the end or the main purpose. And actually the institutions are just a tool. And it is, maybe this is the base of the answer of the helpers. Sure, this is very important what you're saying. So the institutions should help and serve the evolution of the consciousness. What is helping more? What is driving or boosting more? And sometimes what was used in last century, in the 80s, today, 2021, it can be rethought and remodeled. But the institutions allow us get together. And this is very important in the volunteering job. And also, they lead to a change in the Holocene. There is a Waldus orthopensata. Why so many institutions? Because it is through the conscientiocentric institutions that we can change the laws. So we have responsibility based on these advanced ideas of the conscientiological paradigm. And we have the responsibility to implement new sorts of models of organizations. Because it is conscientiology in the society and on the planet. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Do we have some questions here? Now it's from Andressa, here from Foz do Iguaçu. She's asking, at page 2, could you explain the interexistential technique of megastrong trait synergism used in the parapsychic dynamic of parallelology? Yes, this technique consists in the person should focus on his or her strong traits, and through energetic interactions, 2 or more people are going to interact energetically that are taking part in the dynamic. They couple and they have a certain degree of affinity and assimilation, and also to read the other person through a strong traitist view. It's interesting that the para-law studies also crimes, para-crimes, but the approach here is through the strong trait. So the person identifies on his or herself the strong traits, and also identifies the partner's strong traits. And through this energetic coupling, through these assimilations, they intentionally promote a synergism of strong traits, your own and the other's strong traits. And then they direct those scenes towards an interessential focus that is previously defined during the dynamics. For example, let's say that the focus is the situation in Afghanistan. So everyone should think about a strong trait, and then we have an energetic work among 2 or 3 people. They couple, perceive someone else's strong trait, and they bring these strong traits together, promote this synergies, and think about the Afghanistan situation. I think this synergism is important to our context of interassistance, because you were able to perceive the strong trait of someone else, and then you be able to promote by your will, by the consciousness will, to promote the synergism. So when you are aware about this mechanism, this intention to catalyze this, and I'm going to use my strong trait with plus the others' strong traits, and I'm trying to reach a bigger outcome. Synergism is 2 + 2 is greater than 4, because the outcome is greater. And the more we see the positive points of cultures, ethnicities, people, the more this capacity to catalyze the synergies inside us and also among the group that we leader. So I perceive the concepts there as a mosaic. They have some eyes from Oriental people, but they were like Caucasian, and other times they were like with a dark skin. So the context has these characteristics of a lot of cultures and ethnicities. And when we start taking advantage of the characteristics of a lot of cultures and ethnicities, we start multiplying our memories relative to race, culture, and ethnicities. So all of these aspects are inside of us. And the more we take advantage of these memories and these positive traits relative to our holobiography, the more we're able to recognize these traits on someone else and also value that on someone else. My father is Nisei, so my grandmother was Japanese, were mother and grandfather. My mother is Brazilian, but inside of me, I have the Brazilian genetics and also the Japanese culture. I have a little bit less than my sister, but I also have it. So this mix, in my case, this mix helps me as a hypothesis, as a possibility of a qualification or the implantation of an universalist holocene. So I put it here, that lead to universalize. So the leaders, much more than simply lead. One role that is really a key role for the leaders is this, to bring together these strong traits, never mind the culture, ethnics, racial, bring together this, because the universalism is this, the lack of prejudice or making people apart, but also the knowledge and the talent to know how to integrate people, knowledge, ideas. This is why I think this mega strong trait synergism is important. Okay, another question, Eduardo Dória from Curitiba. There are two questions here, and I will say both of them. And so, last line of the perfects out of the box. Let's reduce bureaucracy in interassistance. We live in a country that we have a lot of bureaucracy, firms, and legal organisms. What can we do in order to reduce bureaucracy, to really reduce bureaucracy? And the second question, page 4, item 4, the holotocic barrier hinders. So the first question, how can we reduce bureaucracy? Start intraconsensually. Because the external reality, you don't have control or much control on that. But this intraconsensual condition. So let's work with the linear tocenity, the anti-rubbish, tocenic rubbish. Let's eliminate the bad things and let's become more objectives, more clear, our way of thinking. Let's try to work so that our way of thinking does not oscillate so much. and to have less this false idea of control upon us and upon others. So the intraconsciential self-control is important, but sometimes the person brings so many prerequisites, so many ifs to do something, to start doing something, and to work with the interassistance. And other moments, the person is so preoccupied with, oh, what people will think about me. And the person is a bit afraid to go against a rule. And sometimes you need to do that. If you question it, and based on your principles, the situation does not make sense. And so you need to question some obstacles, ideological, bureaucratic, institutional. So the person must be bold to break these barriers and this pattern. Another thing that helps is organization, because bureaucracy, in a general way in Brazil, it may lead to disorganization and wasting of time. So there are a series of techniques that conscientiology brings to make an intraconscientiality less bureaucratic, more organized, more objective, more authentic. So one of the things that bureaucracy brings, there are so many rules and so many laws, then you get lost. What is the aim? What do you really want? So the secondary is more important than the priority. So this is what the debureaucratization brings, to focus on what is the priority in this evolutionary moment. And so, relative to the, what is this? What is the threat of intruders? It is when our own friends are against you. So you're there in a basketball team and you have a colleague, a friend of yours, cheering against you or the team. So this is this condition. And sometimes this bad hallucinogenic, this bad cheering, it is not explicit. So we need to bring the admiration, disagreement in order to extinguish this situation of the friendly fire. But friendly fire is when the person, which is theoretically your partner, friend, is cheering or putting energy against the work. It is, okay?
In terms of docility, it might be a goal against us. We have the practice situation, but we need to analyze also the level of docility. As a complement, I think it's interesting under this focus of reflection, thinking how many goals against we are marking in the team of helpers. So under this focus, we might analyze what we should do in order to assume better, our tasks. I would like to include in the item 3, which for me it's quite interesting. It is interesting the experience that you bring in the relation of the team acts, the extra-physical teams. So in terms of this para-diplomacy, thinking about the helpers, we need to consider what we need to do in order not to go against our own work. And then we have this need of remembering our paradigm and analyzing those cultural barriers that we perhaps bring hidden in ourselves. They might be, and they will end limiting or creating limitation for us to act. You know, Marco, it's great what you mentioned. I recall an experience I had. We were in the Kruger National Park, in a city near South Africa, in a place closer to this Kruger Park. It was in 2014 in South Africa. We were in Johannesburg, and we had the intention of visiting this park. It is a nice hint, analyzing and studying that in order to qualify our universalism, analyzing the animals, the flora, fauna, the vegetables, the plants, the animals. And then we decided to stay closer to that in order for us to keep on moving, keep up with our travel. You know, that for me was something happened like a milestone forever. So the helper I felt was with a profile. It was a more discreet person with a strong Tosenic retiniliarity, little words, but a very big communication. And then I recalled we were in a room with a very high ceiling. And then after a while, I saw a concierge with a paravisual of a shaman. And then my helper, the helper said, observe. And then that pattern of fraternity, of energy, of embracing that expand my psychosphere became huge, and I developed a tranquility, a strong sense of peace. This shaman concierge came closer, and he started to act in a ritual way. And then I perceived that this concierge was going to command the service, and I calmed down, and that concierge did a movement, and then I perceive a strong level of colorful energy popping out from the floor. And then after a while, I saw a huge group of elephants came to inside the room of the Penta. And then many concierges were assisted. And that were more than 1 hour of Penta, and I was very happy of having this opportunity, because for me was a fantastic para class. It was a super class. Because in the first moment I thought, well, what is that? A shaman? Perhaps something is wrong. And then my helpers, and then the helper said, no, it's okay. It's everything okay. And then at the end, people congratulating us and congratulating the work, a gratitude, a sense of gratitude. And that taught me a lot, that when we are working to assist, when we are working for assistance, the consciousness is the consciousness. It doesn't live on the way he or she presents himself, presents themselves. They are assisting, having the discernment condition. The cosmos is here. So what is the planet Earth inside the cosmos? What is the cities? So little things, I'm not saying that this is not important, but this perspective between microcosmos and macrocosmos and microcosmos, this difference of perspective. I recall that Instructor Vieira told us that he popped out a conscience from the body, and they brought this conscience into a Umbanda center, that when the conscience popped out of the body, and when the conscience went closer to this Umbanda center, the person had such a huge preconcept towards that ideas that the work could not be done. So the point is, the essence is what I can understand in terms of paradiplomacy. I place here in the page number 4. Let me see which item is that. In the item number 2, optimizers, the consideration of the consciousness beyond the intraphysical facade, ethnological studies, respect for the other's intelligence, because we are embracing different facades, different ethnias. We have now one ethnia, but we need to analyze what are the values, what are the strong traits from others. So seeing this consciousness beyond the facade, beyond their armors, beyond the trenches of the intraphysicality, that helped me a lot in order to understand better what is really a paradiplomacy. So just compliment, giving a compliment towards what you mentioned. I think that what Marco mentioned, what you had done towards others, because if you had done the goal against this situation, we need to assume that situation and think, what should we done in order to solve that? But if it was the other who did a goal against for you or on you or in the situation, we could learn to forgive. We might learn to understand better the situation. So now, Cristina, talking about the question, Katya's question. Could you elaborate on a person who is a Penta practitioner a person who is learning how to qualify his or her penta. So the way I see as people, as a group, whenever we practice penta, we have a super opportunity to understand better the paradiplomacy. Because the paradiplomacy is the inter-assistance among the consciousness, considering the peculiar traits. So the paradiplomat, it is going to help with understanding, with integration, mediate this situation with a focus and the inter-assistance in that context, in that specific context. So among this, I might consider towards this context, what is the best thing to do? So developing placing on focus in the person in the group, in the situation that I want to assist. So what is a diplomat? Is a person that represents a specific group, a specific subject, and a specific situation. We as diplomats, we represent the ideas of conscientiology, we represent the ideas of mega systems related with the reurbaxis. So first of all, this universalist profile without preconcepts, an embracing profile, an hetero-forgiven profile. This helps, this get incremented a lot. This has been developed, and this get more and more developed with the practice of penta. So the way I see, we might consider, we might think, am I advancing in my diminishing my corruptibility? So for example, when the scenario of the penta field is diversified, it seems that I have been advancing more and more in my level of corruptibility. So ahead of us, I see that this paradiplomatic condition is very important, because we are embracing the mega intruder with a good level of respect, good level of affection. And you are going to avoid the satellites from the mega intruder to access him or her. And how this works. So one thing we can analyze is, in that moment, how is my intraconscientiality? One idea that I had was like this. The mega fraternity is like this. The more fraternal I am, it seems that I am the most fraternal I am, it might seem that I am walking away or far from my ego. So the more I expand my affection, my respect, my consideration, popping out of our belly. No. So let's think about the people who are genocide, the whole of cons hells or cons bells, consciex that are reurbanized consciex, bellicistic consciex as well. So I'm not, I'm just giving a suggestion for us to analyze. I don't want to impose or give a catechese in terms of consciousness, but it is inside of the idea that Hernani brought into his last chat, developing a genuinity will of assisting from, this is one of our my point of view. So good morning all. Congratulations for instructor Cristina. So you mentioned the linguistic barrier, and I was considering and trying to analyze that. In Brazil, for example, we have this strong barrier in terms of amplifying this Cosmo view. It's important to develop this language. Even the questions about the colloquialism, in order for us to be able to communicate with this type of consciousness. So today is so easy. There are so many resources, technologies. The world is so connected in terms of possibilities. So in terms of people being able to learn other languages, this is interesting, because before, in order to teach English, you needed to place the book. You needed to bring a paper book, and now there are other possibilities. For example, when a person learns another language, this promotes a different way of thinking, because every language, every culture, every language reflects a way of structuring the thoughts and the ideas. For example, the Japanese language, they invert phonemas that shows a specific way of Japanese people of thinking. They are more methodical. On other languages, Latin languages, they are more fluid. For example, German language, they attached different words, and then it shapes a different meaning. So you place word by word, and then suddenly you have another meaning. So learning languages is not only learning a language, it's a question of bringing flexibility for mental structures. And of course, other benefits is that you start to access an interassistential public. Because sometimes specific ideas, concepts, while people did not develop the acquisition, the block acquisition, sometimes the ideas, they might come in on other languages. This happened with me. Be it me in a more parapsychic activity, or in the idea, it might not come in other languages. So it might come in Portuguese and French, or so on and so forth. So the more we can learn different languages, the more we can amplify the connection with new ideas. So the information is here today. The question is not about acquiring information, is the opposite, is being able to select and knowing what we can do with this information. English is beyond Portuguese. English is the universal language, Now see this activity. Look how interesting. We are here talking Portuguese with folks that are on other countries. They are perhaps online. people would be attending, or it will be recorded, and in the future they would be able to take care. So analyze how our clarification task, it will expand when we can interact into another language, because it's easier, the rapport. So just complementing this, so just complementing, yesterday I was trying to do an empathic exercise. So you are in one African tribe, and then you have this inquietation inside that tribe. I don't know, before knowing Conscientiology, I have crossed for moments like this. I was looking other things. I went to the mysticism. I went to look other possibilities. I start to look for what could be able to fulfill my anxiety, my research about a group related with the intermissivist, and I'm glad that I was able to get in touch with Conscientiology. And then I open a book and I read Cosmoethical and Universalism, and then I thought I had met my group. So before you getting in touch with Conscientiology, you are in one island, far away. And then let's think how an intermissivist who is in that little island, how that intermissivist person will acquire more information. And then I thought, books, Biblioafrica project, so on and so on, everything we can do in order to amplify the ideas in the world. This is a responsibility that we have within towards our evolutionary group, because here in CAEC, in FOSS, we are swimming into a variety of courses. And then we might think, oh, okay, that person over there in that island far beyond in Africa needs to learn Portuguese. No, come on, please, folks. Imagine a person in Africa without water, without structure. So the next step about real urbexis, we will be in Africa. No, we need so in order to establish a holotocenic counterpoint. So the person has a limitation with nutrition, with technology, and then on top of that, the person will need to learn Portuguese. Please, let's universalize more and more our knowledge. So place in that, let's place in ourselves in the place of that person who is there in that island, who is looking for his or her group, looking for one or for other things, and they will not be able to find. So we need to think about collaborating with these ideas, with experiencing these ideas on other languages, expanding, especially us that had the opportunity to coexist more with instructor Vieira. We have a responsibility of sharing, of spreading, of donating the knowledge that we had acquired into the entire planet, because that will be establishing a big difference for our evolutionary group.
Now we have another question from Viviane. could you broaden your casuistics relative to para-diplomacy in South Africa and recommend how to act in the Afghanistan situation? Hi, Viviane, thanks for the question. It's so good to hear you here. Well, let's start not think bad or negatively against the situation. The second point is the historical context that helps. To have this historical view, how things develop. There is that condition of the nation's holocarm and group karmic course. So knowing that, it leads you to the third step. Honestly ask, how can I help more? And just remember, a lot can be done if you're just not disturbing the process. So if you perceive that if you're going to act, you're very compromised in that situation because this happens due to our evolutionary level. So in this case, it's better for you to do nothing. But be open to help the best way possible with good energies, with good dosings. Also, the compassionate and empathic bind with the victims and also the perpetrators, because there is a great link of interpretation between the victim and the perpetrator. So from our tosanity, how can we help? Another thing that may help on daily basis, let not repeat Afghanistan attitudes, because sometimes we talk, we put our energies, but on daily basis, sometimes we are fundamentalists. We are fundamentalists with the more libertarian ideas. So the outcome of our consciential manifestation, our tosanity, it should add and build a more homeostatic and positive holotosine. Orthodoxanity and positivity. Sometimes you're emanating energies in a situation that you have this religious fundamentalism, but the way that we act is very close to that holotosine. And in this case, there is a contradiction. And the help is not effective or is less effective. It is really less effective. So it depends on how we work. So the first thing is how we think and how we act. So in the para-diplomacy from your question, I am an apprentice of para-diplomacy. So the action and the speech are very important, especially in the multidimensional context, because the outcome of our theories is our presentation, personal presentation. So the outcomes of our theories allows us to go in a paradiplomatic way, in intergroup, interdimensional situation. So it's not only what you say, your discourse, it is way more what you do. And inside conscientiology, these ideas make some sense. And with our practice, we have a lot of opportunities to do that. So the red passport of the diplomat is our moral authority level. And the moral authority is related to the theories, and what you say is what you do. I think that what you're saying is relative to the freedom item when you talk about universal inner liberty, that I think it just break this past paradigms that we bring inside us, and it leads you to another level of comprehension. And I also thought that you correlated that with a more balanced extrasensory perceptions and the experience of paraperception, and also relative to the binomial magnitude discretion. Could you say something about it? Yes, the more liberty the person has, and you have a lot of responsibility, and as responsibility is not repression, but the highest level of your capabilities, the more you feel free from the beliefs of the ideological trenches and the self and hetero repressions, and free from self-corruption. One of the things that imprison consciousness is the self-corruption, self-imposed. And there are a lot of reasons for that. So the more free the person is becoming, the more expansion is possible. And also the paraperception is becoming more advanced, not in the sense of a parapsychic show, but relative to the quality of the informations, the ideas, and this cognitive access. We're talking about the pan-cognition. Dusidel defended the verbiage about that. So it is pan-conscientiology. So this is the more advanced paraphenomenology, like cosmoconsciousness, pangraphy, the conscientious manifestation, and it leads to a certain discretion of the consciousness. So the more advanced is the paraphenomenon relative to pancognition, the more advanced the phenomena relative to pancognition, the tendency is the person to be more discreet, because he or she is understanding the situation and is more reflective. And also the anti-egocentric condition, cosmoethic condition, that is together with this advanced parapsychism. So the consequence is this posture of more discretion. So as an example, in a general way, people that undergo a cosmo-consciousness does not talk a lot about it in an egoic way. If the person is going to talk, of course, it's going to be in a claritasical intention. So the cosmovision, more genuine, brings the person to a more discretion pattern. And relative to the evolutionary levels, so more transcendent phenomena, more complex actions, inter-assistance actions, the greater discernment relative to cosmoethics, more advanced fraternity, all these make the person to be more discreet, because there's no need to call so much attention. The person has no needs in terms of getting attention, and the person is more open to donate than to receive. Did it help? Yes. Now another question from Eduardo Doria from Curitiba. What are the next steps to advertise and expand conscientiology in the African continent with so different countries? What do I know is a lot of pensatas of Waldo Vieira talking about this rearback's focus on African continent because of the retribution reasons, because we started there, our existence as a Homo sapiens, our evolutionary stage in this planet started there in this continent. So there is a sense of retribution. I also think maybe the barythospheric pockets, extra-physical pockets are there above that continent. So the next steps are to think about the situation and to help we need to know. I know that in the book Zephyr, there is Waldo Vieira saying that Mabel wrote there inside a chapter relative to rearbaxology. There's a project with Biblio-Africa, which is João Aurélio and Katia Arakaki. They are responsible. And Waldo made a specific request to distribute the orthopensatic lexicons throughout the African continent. There is a team of volunteers working with João and Katia. There is another project with Juliana Costa that is there assisting people in Africa. I recommend to read her book, which is a comparison between her current life with a past life. And there are other initiatives and intentions to help the African continent. So I think, again, first step is to be interested in that and know why. Why am I interested in that? Because there are a lot of things to help. Okay, there are people that are not so tuned with the African continent. That's not a problem. Keep doing your assistance. But the first thing is know, why do I want to help there? What do I really know about this continent, which is really complex, because the ethnicities, the tribes, and the past colonization in the African continent. So the person must evaluate if you have a relationship with that. And another thing, if the person is liberated to do this sort of work, because sometimes your group karmic debits are so big that it's not able, that the person is not able to do that. It is the person that has this mindset with relative to more slavery and to dominate other people. I'm not saying that the person has slaves nowadays. It is just a mindset, the slavery mindset. So the person must evaluate how the person can do about it. I was there in the African continent. I didn't spend much time there, but from my experience, including the Penta experience, I was only in Johannesburg in South Africa and some cities around there. There is a challenge, Holocene, but I think it is worthwhile. And now I'm going to say, don't believe in anything that I said here. Use the disbelief principle and especially have your own personal experiences. Experiments. Make your experiments. Experience, be bold, act, qualify your intentions. Because there's a whole planet to interact and to connect, and also other planets and other dimensions. So the cosmos is the last frontier, no frontiers. Okay, so our time is up. If you want to find your final considerations. Okay, so thanking my final considerations is relative to gratitude to the team of the Epicentrism debate. Thank you. I'd like to thank Isaac that are organizing the 3rd International Week of Conscientiology, an event with the SIEC as a partner. To congratulate this team relative to the range of these assistants, because they are opening new interexistential fronts. I'd like to thank the presence of the debaters, Odílio, Marco, Terezinha, and Hernani as a mediator, as an intraphysical helper. I'd like to thank the interpreters and translators, the technical team of Tertuliarium, Everton, Geraldo is also here. So I'm very grateful and thank you all. And I think that's the message. Let's act without borders. Let's liberate ourselves from any kind of borders. Thank you all. Have a nice weekend. I have to say this, of the advertising. You can enroll for the International Week. It's already open, so come participate and interact with the planetary Holocene. Thank you, Cristina. Thank you all. So our punctuations are in Portuguese, Spanish, and English. So in Portuguese, 336, 48 live watchers. In English, 116 people. And in Spanish, 160 access. So in total, we have 609 accesses and 67 viewers. So our next debate, it is the interexistentiology polynomial. Thank you all and see you in the next epicentrism in debate.